Welcome to the Culture Edit. Unique perspectives into the personal and professional lives of individuals at the helm of successful business, athletics, art, and design. Welcome to the Culture Edit, episode 60. I almost said 61 because we missed a week.
Yeah. Sorry we missed a week. We'll explain why.
Well,
we're back, though.
It is Tuesday because we had a very busy weekend, or unintentionally busy weekend, which we'll also explain later. And then yesterday we were just swamped with work and too exhausted to record. So here we are. We're getting it done at least, you know?
Yeah.
You can't make everything perfect sometimes when life gets in the way, but at least we're trying to stick to it.
We know we got people counting on this.
Yes.
So 60 had to come out this week, and it's going to happen. So, yeah. Linda, I hope you're happy.
Yes. So first we want to say a shout out to Michael Garrison, because many of you know him as MGR, because he was unfortunately hit by a car on Sunday. Now, before you gasp, he is okay. He has a lot of road rash, but no broken bones, and, you know, probably a slight concussion, which I feel like concussions can be worse than like a broken elbow for long term.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyways, but it appears that he is on the mend and hopefully will be back on the bike within the next, few weeks or so. But
a car hit him, by the way. He did not hit a car. A car
made
a U-turn into him while he was going down 10th Street.
And the irony of that is that we have a lot of jokes about behavior that you only see in Atlanta, because there's like every city kind of has it where you're like, that only happens in Orlando, or that only happens in Miami, or that only happens in New York. There's behaviors here that I feel like only happen in Atlanta.
Definitely.
And one, or at least consistently, and one of those that we pretty consistently see and joke about is the Atlanta U-turn, which
all the
is
time.
In the middle of a road, U-turn.
Any
in
road.
The middle of a highway, U-turn.
Any road.
Like driving the wrong way on the highway, U-turn.
Yep.
People feel as though they can just literally do a U-turn in the middle of whatever road they want to do the U-turn in, and that includes running into other cars, running into cyclists. So it was very scary. He called me on Sunday and was like, I got hit by a car, and I was immediately like terrified. When I got there, he was already in the ambulance, and the police officers writing the police report. Now, what I will say is that I was very impressed by the APD police officer. She was very thorough. She was very friendly, very caring.
Which is very un-Atlanta-like.
Well, I think that what we can talk about also is or what I perceive as a shift in APD hiring.
Yeah.
Just based on a couple interactions, but what we've also seen in our neighborhood.
Young women.
Yeah, young women. Very compassionate, very caring. So that just goes to show you, like, maybe there needs to be more women in different jobs like this. But she truly cared. But yeah, we spent the good part of Sunday
afternoon in Grady.
Yeah,
ER.
in Grady, which was...
It's entertainment in itself.
I don't know if entertainment is the right word. I'm pretty sure if I don't have COVID over the next few days, I'll be shocked because, yeah.
Yeah. For our non-Atlanta listeners, Grady is one of the world's busiest trauma centers, right?
Well, it's one of the best trauma hospitals in the nation. But
it's the hospital downtown when you go through the connector, that giant, spooky-looking hospital.
Yeah.
That's Grady.
You get a lot of, like, I just saw so many wide varieties from, like, as soon as you walk in, there's, like, blood all over, just permanently stained into the concrete, which isn't the most inviting thing. And then, everyone's still behind plexiglass. You get, like, the woman, like, patted me down, scanned me, which is fine. I'd rather be safe than, not safe.
Yeah.
But essentially it feels as though you're entering more of, like, a prison than a hospital, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
So anyways, it was, interesting experience.
Not that you've ever been to a prison, but from movies and TV shows.
No, I have been to, we did multiple field trips to prisons when I was in high school. Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah.
Dr. Phillips takes their kids to prisons?
Yeah.
Like scared straight?
It wasn't like it wasn't like we weren't in trouble. It was
but they scare you.
I shouldn't say it wasn't a prison. It was like the Orange County Jail.
Okay.
So it was a county jail, which is a little bit different than a prison, or a lot different.
Well, people are behind bars.
But people were, yeah.
Why did they take y'all there?
I guess to be like, this is, I think to educate us on.
Had you been bad?
No, it was like a field trip.
It wasn't like the detention group.
No, and maybe it was in middle school. Maybe it wasn't high school. I don't remember exactly.
Sounds like some kind of scared straight program.
It wasn't.
It worked.
Well, I mean, I was never really one for getting arrested, but or doing things that would lead to to my arrest. But yeah, no, I've been to.
Shout out to Orange County
So
public
you've
school
never
system.
been into a jail?
I've been in a.
Oh yeah,
I've
you've been arrested.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, bad boys.
Well, I don't know if this needs to make the podcast.
You were arrested
but
as a kid, right?
yeah, as a 16-year-old. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
the truth comes out.
yeah.
Interesting.
Well,
Well,
I got stuffed and cuffed.
my record is as clean as a whistle.
Yeah.
Anyways, so
We'll leave that for a future episode.
that was a really long way to say that we spent Sunday in the ER.
It was a week of hospitals for me too, because the reason we didn't make the episode last weekend was because I had a family emergency where I had to go down to Tallahassee, Florida, to take care of some family medical emergencies, and I got to spend a couple of days in the Tallahassee Medical Memorial Hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah. What an
TMH.
experience that. I mean, it was no Grady, but as I mentioned to you, our we don't spend a lot of time in medical facilities, and
Yeah.
the one that we do is a very excellent one in our client, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. So to go through that experience of dealing with people, I guess in adult hospitals, they're known as not being as compassionate. But to do that in Tallahassee was quite the culture shock for me. I think also just being a smaller town, just the level of professionalism is a lot different,
Yeah.
I found. But yeah, so that was Tallahassee. I did want to say though, while I was there, I rode early in the morning, the darkest place I've ever ridden my bike because of the canopy.
Yeah.
So it's canopy roads.
Sounds safe.
It was so spooky. And I told you I rode down the road that I used to live on, and it was like early, it was like 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And the kids were out waiting by the stores, by the bus stop. And I rode by my road that I was always waiting on, and there was a kid with blonde hair wearing all black with white tennis shoes on, looked right at me.
And I know this has been a highly debatable subject over the years, but Chad did in fact have blonde hair when he was a child.
Oh, that's probably news to people.
So he
I had bright blonde
he
hair.
references this as it looked like himself as a child, so it freaked him out.
It very much freaked
And
me
I
out.
said,
I
"Are
got
you
chills.
sure that he was? Are you sure he wasn't a ghost?"
I mean, I got chills. I also went by my house. I rode by my house. One of the houses that we grew up in, because we moved around a lot. And I told you it was so small. Like it looks so small to me.
Yeah, compared to what you remember.
Yeah, compared to what you remember, it's like such a crazy thing. But the neighborhood pretty much looks the same, like all the houses, because there's no new houses. They were all new when this is the mid 80s, like 86, 87. And nothing's changed. It was really, other than like they look different colors.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of the
was
crazy
kinda
thing
eerie.
in Florida is because I feel like Orlando is the same. Like when we just, what were we doing? We were driving back from Miami and we stopped through.
For work, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a focus group in Orlando.
Oh, that's right. We had
Yeah.
a focus group in Orlando. I was like, why were we in Orlando?
Yeah.
But nothing has changed
Yeah.
since I grew up there. Like, I mean, I guess it's because everything is so revolved around like, I don't know, because I think about the Beltline, how much has changed.
So, I mean,
And it just keeps changing and changing and changing. But Orlando, like that whole area in Dr. Phillips where I grew up, it's still the same restaurants. It has not
Yeah.
changed. Like you might have like one or two new little things, but for the most part, it looks exactly the same.
it was the same thing in Tallahassee. And I was thinking about just the fact that I didn't live there, which was very unusual for someone to leave, like to grow up there and leave. Life there, I was trying to think about how do you describe Tallahassee? Because it's not Florida. It's definitely not Florida. It's more the South, but it's like South Georgia, but it's not even that. It's like this mix of,
I think of it as more like the bayou type.
yeah, it's
living.
like Gulf
Gulf
Coast,
Coast.
Southern, but it's very comfortable.
Yeah.
Like life there is very, very, very comfortable. And you feel that
Yeah.
everyone there is just in a very, repetitive, comfortable environment. But that is one thing they don't like cyclists at all. I got yelled at more one morning, 6 a.m. than I have all year in Atlanta.
That
And I don't even know what I'm probably not suitable for podcast yelling, but yeah. So that was interesting. So speaking of Old Fourth Ward, I was thinking about that today when I was headed to the gym.
Yeah.
the Forum Athletic Club, who now has
Expanded.
opened back up, expanded. I talked to Dan,
Oh yeah.
the owner. They got a lot of new equipment coming in there, but they basically, the Forum Athletic Club in Pond City Market now is 2 floors, and it's very exciting. But how much Old Fourth Ward just in the last year, Inman Park, really from Inman Park to Ponce, I'm starting to feel like there's a different vibe. Like I'm starting to feel
100%.
like it's
Young versus old.
yeah, like all of a sudden it doesn't feel as touristy. It feels like the density is definitely getting really thick, like in terms of the amount of people that are living here.
Oh yeah. Because of all the condos.
And because of all the condos, and it's feeling very urban. It's feeling very metropolitan. The new restaurants, new hotels, like the Fourth, Electra, which we did go to, by the way, and we recommend.
So good. Oh my gosh. Get the sampler, like the
Oh yeah, what was that?
it's on their appetizers, but it's like a giant sampler of all their different stuff. It was amazing. So good.
It's Middle Eastern, like Del Bar, but
similar.
different. Same,
I would
but
say
different.
it's not. I would say it's more like Greek forward than Persian forward. We need to go on their website and read like what the actual description is. But Del Bar is like straight Persian food,
Yeah.
traditional. Whereas this, I would say, is more like a Greek kind of feel to it.
Yeah, I think that's
Because
right.
they like baba ganoush and like I don't think that's Persian. I think that's Greek.
Oh yeah, I guess you're right.
But it was really, really, really good.
Yeah, octopus was really good. Oh yeah, so it's just, it feels like just recently. I don't know. There's something about it that's happening to me that feels very different.
I think it's because I agree with you. Although I feel like Inman Park is like still really touristy.
That's what I said, from Inman Park
Yeah.
to Ponce.
I feel like it's because there's so many. So there weren't a lot of people living directly on the Beltline further down for years. Like there weren't any there weren't many condos. There was just like some lofts like sprinkled along the Beltline. And now because there's so many high rises, there's like the Beltline is no longer a place to visit. It's actually a place for transit.
Yeah.
And so it's shifting from we visit the Beltline to we transit on the Beltline. Like that's how we get places. That's how we get to the grocery store. Like even today, think about it. I went on a run. You went to the gym. I went on a run down the Beltline. You went to the gym off the Beltline. And then we met at Kroger. We got our groceries. And
Accidentally.
Accidentally.
How weird is that?
Happened to be at Kroger. And then we walked back down the Beltline with our groceries.
Yeah.
And so that's a very like New York type of experience, is everything is done in this like foot transit, bike transit mode versus just being in a car at all times.
Yeah.
But Inman Park, I think the reason this has stayed touristy, unfortunately, is because it's easy to park around here.
Yeah.
Area.
And that's why you feel like the restaurants in Inman Park cater to tourists, whereas the places like we're talking about in Old Fourth Ward,
It's like high end.
don't. Yeah. It feels more upscale.
Yeah.
Definitely, where we haven't had that here around Inman Park at all.
And so,
So
I mean, Del Bar.
Rathman Steak, maybe
Yeah.
in Del Bar. But yeah, it I don't know. It's interesting. It's like we weathered through the storm of COVID and everything else that was making us
It just
question
makes me
things.
want to move further down the Beltline.
Okay. A half mile down the Beltline.
Yeah, just a little bit further.
Okay.
No, I definitely think it's like younger people too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
Anyways.
Speaking of restaurants.
Yeah, so speaking of restaurants, and I was going to touch on this earlier, but we had our first Speed Club rendezvous. That's what we're going to call our experiential events planned by Speed Club. Our first ticketed event at Kevin Maxey's restaurant, Pendolino. It's
Celebrity chef Kevin
it's
Maxey.
up in Buckhead, Chastain area. And we had the whole back room. It was a lot of fun. We had a bunch of people come. It was all, like family style, and the wine was flowing, the drinks were flowing, and it was a lot of fun. We had a great time. So we want to say thank you to Kevin and his team, because they were incredible. And and this is 100% a plug for Pendolino, if you want to plan some sort of birthday or party or any type of thing, they have this really cool back room where it can be a fixed menu. And it was just a great experience. Like they had flowers on the table. I mean, it was a far better experience than anywhere else I've planned some sort of gathering at.
It was definitely first class. I mean, it might be because we're
we're friends with them.
know them very well, but I think they'll go above and beyond for anyone. And they just got named one of Atlanta's best restaurants by Atlanta Magazine.
Yeah. The food is incredible.
It's kind of surreal to think about that though. Like we've known Kevin for so long, working part of the Ford Fry Rocket Farms group, and then like all the time we talked about him opening a restaurant, giving him our recommendations on like from design to menu to that's basically it, menu items, which you can listen to. But then to be there and to be in his restaurant, which is designed so cool, and the food being so good, and then us sitting there eating with our friends is like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a crazy thing that we get to experience.
Yeah, it was a great experience.
It's Diddy week. Everyone's talking about Diddy.
Ugh, gross. I don't even really understand what's going on. Like, all I know is people are calling him the diddler because I guess he's like molesting boys.
I don't know. I just know
And now
that I know that
supposedly roped into it, and she's like been a part of the trafficking or murders.
Yeah,
or
I
something.
think this all kind of stuff's about to come out that's going to be not good for a lot of people.
It's like the Clintons 2.0.
Yeah, it's like Freak Out has now entered the chat. I think it's going to be part of pop culture lexicon for a long time.
Freak out?
Yeah, that's what he'd call them, freakouts. The freakouts. That was the parties.
Oh.
You haven't seen that? That's,
no. I haven't been paying attention to anything at all.
Yeah, it's not going to be good. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. Like, is this going to go to trial? Is there going to be names and
well, apparently, yeah, he's
and,
been like blackmailing people for a long time.
Yeah.
But it's like all the names so far, like Jay-Z, Beyonce, like, which I will say I never liked Jay-Z. Okay.
What about Beyonce?
Well,
we know you don't like her country music.
I'm not a fan of the country music.
Okay.
I don't dislike Beyonce. I've never been like a massive Beyonce fan. I don't know why. I just haven't ever been a huge fan of Beyonce, but I never liked Jay-Z. I will say that.
I just love.
I like Beyonce's daughter. She's cool.
I love all the old interviews that they're digging up where people are like, "Oh yeah, the Diddy's having that party."
And poor Justin Bieber's like getting taken advantage of. At
having
15
that
years
party
old.
again. Yeah, I hadn't seen the thing with J-Lo.
I can't. This is why I don't watch the news or read the news or anything, because I cannot distinguish between what's made up and what's real anymore.
Oh, could be AI.
So, or just people just put things out there, and it's so like someone will put a lie out there, and on TikTok or Instagram, it spreads so fast that enough people pick it up that then you're like, wait, is this a lie or is this the truth now?
Yeah. Didn't you say you saw Kanye? Like something came out with Kanye. Was all this time has been saying Diddy's been doing this, and everyone just thought Kanye was crazy.
Yeah. Apparently, Kanye West has been like saying, well, everyone knows he has a thing against the Kardashians for obvious reasons. But when he was like having his mental breakdown, he was tweeting all this stuff, saying how, all this stuff about P. Diddy and how he like murdered Tupac and like did all that. And now it's coming out that like all of this is a possibility. They think he murdered his, ex-girlfriend or whatever, who mysteriously died of pneumonia.
Oh wow!
But then Kris Jenner's now boyfriend, who used to work for Diddy, was just like at the house while the girlfriend was murdered. Like all this like weird. There's just like a lot of like weird.
Coincidence?
Yeah, just a lot of weird stuff going on.
Can't wait for the Netflix special on this one.
We can't trust anything though. You can't even trust Netflix, because who's to say that Netflix isn't in all of it?
Well, what we're gonna be able to trust is that, I mean, he's going to, like, he's been arrested.
Yeah. So
there's gonna be a trial unless he pleads, and if there's a trial, all the facts will come out.
Maybe.
Speaking of Netflix, we stumbled across a show on Max that you love, Hacks.
Yeah, it's really funny. It's like about two female comedians, and it's not like actually, I guess they are.
I think they're both actual comedians, yeah. But they're really good.
But
actresses.
It's really good, and it's interesting because it's kind of like this. I don't know, like it's very revealing about like the relationships that women can have that are toxic, but like no one really wants to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
But also, how do you work through that, and how do you look within yourself to figure out why that's happening? I think there's a lot of interesting undertones that just that's not typically the storyline of most TV shows.
Well, and also because they are transparent about it with each other,
Yeah.
which is not what you see typically.
Yeah.
One follow-up from previous episodes we talked a lot about is Nike. And so I think even a few weeks ago, we kind of predicted that they would be making a change at the top. They did this week, which we have friends that work there. And did you see who they are bringing back as their CEO?
It was someone who had been there for a really long time.
Yeah, he started as an intern
Yeah.
in 1987.
It's pretty cool.
So they went the opposite direction. So Donahoe was an outsider tech guy. And then they realized, okay, we screwed up and we got to bring someone in but it's again, because they're thinking about the brand, the culture, what the brand means internally for people in terms of the energy and the discretionary effort and everything that's required for them to be successful. I'm sure the board said, we got to have someone that has been here.
Yeah.
That's been through that.
Well, been through like the days that they want to get back to.
Yeah.
Which I'm not 100% convinced that like bringing in someone like really old like that is necessarily going to, and not to be like ageist, but I'm just not sure if that is really going to make you competitive with these really cool new brands like On, like
It's Hoka. It's the
yeah,
two
Hoka,
are
On,
Hoka and On. Yeah.
Solomon. But Solomon's been around forever.
Yeah, they have.
Solomon's an old brand.
Yeah.
But
if he's smart, he'll hire people or promote younger people to run those brands that are competitive, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what the CEO should be doing. He should be thinking about who are the people that I'm going to put in place, the key stakeholders that have that kind of energy that can compete.
yeah. Yeah, and they just need to innovate. They
Yeah.
haven't innovated. It's like what you could tell that a tech person had taken over, because when you walk into a Nike store now, they're so obsessed with trying to ring you up on an iPad,
Yeah.
but they're not obsessed with helping you pick out a cool outfit or get the best shoes on your feet or help you choose the best shoes. Like you go onto like the store in Miami, the On store. As soon as you go in, their focus is let's get you in the best pair of shoes that's right for you. Let's get you in the best outfit for, are you a jogger? Let's try this. Are you a competitive runner? Let's try this. And that's the first thought, is like, let's get this athlete into the right gear to make them a better athlete.
Remember, we had our friend who is former CEO of a client of ours who had a relationship with Nike. He talked about this too.
Oh, yeah.
About he was just here in our office. He talked about them getting away from the retailers. Mm-hmm. Like that was a huge mistake. Trying to do everything direct to consumer, which again, technology play.
Yeah.
So I bet they'll unravel a lot of these moves that they've made. And
will they ever be like the cool kid on the block again? I don't know.
Michael still thinks they're cool.
I mean, I think they're cool. I love
Yeah.
Nike. I think from a shoe perspective, from a running shoe perspective, they're innovating way further than other shoe companies. I think other shoe companies have just gotten way better at marketing
Yeah.
and making it feel cool.
Cool. Yeah. Except you run in Sauconys now.
Well, that was just because I have like weak glute meads. That's not Nike's fault.
Did you see Bandit's Berlin capsule thing?
No,
They released that.
I'm sure it's really cool.
Why don't you look at it right now?
okay.
Let's see this. It's very to follow up on last week's 2 weeks ago episode. It's very Beetlejuice.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Yeah, it's definitely not flattering on the. That's really strange, huh?
Yeah, I was wondering if you saw that.
Nope, hadn't seen it.
See, but it does look very Beetlejuice, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's weird. Although I will say a lot of ARC, Atlanta Run Club people, are in Berlin for the Berlin Marathon. So
This coming weekend.
yeah, good luck to everyone. I am amazed at how much people have been training for this thing. Like, it's impressive.
I'm amazed that people in Atlanta, Georgia, even have Berlin Marathon on their radar.
Oh, they go to the Tokyo Marathon, Berlin. I mean, like, these marathons have become such like a thing now that everyone like tries to get on a wait list or sign up as soon as,
It's like that's their vacation.
Yeah.
The vacation time is going
Like
to these events.
I think people nowadays, they want a reason to travel that has something to do with fitness.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same reason we do gravel.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But I think it's cool. I think it's really
It's a lot easier.
Oh, it's definitely easier to travel as a runner.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Just pack your tennis shoes.
For sure.
Not a bucks on bucks.
Speaking of Nike, though, going back to that, another big company that came out earlier, was it last week? Their CEO sent a really well-written memo, communique to the entire company about how Amazon is going back to a 5-day in the office work week.
Yep. As we predicted.
As we predicted, we keep saying
More
this.
coming.
More and more company. I mean, now that the tidal wave is coming, because all it takes is these bigger companies to then inspire other big, medium, small size companies to be like, you're right. Like, and go look up his letter that he wrote, because it's not like this draconian, like, everyone must be under my control type situation. It was rooted in logic, and it was rooted in reason, and also there was, empathy behind it as well. But it was kind of like, hey, like, we tried this, it's not working.
Yeah.
So we've got to, we've got to make changes.
I just had lunch with a CHRO a couple hours ago, and we were talking about the same thing. And she agrees that it is really about a cultural thing, and the folks that don't want it, and what we all need to accept is, if you go to 5 days a week, if you're flexible right now, or you're 3 days a week, you're going to lose people. And our predictions probably with Amazon, they're probably anticipating losing a lot of people. Like, this is a way for them to cut staff.
Yeah.
Which they also announced that we're going to flatten the organization. So they're taking out layers of middle management. I bet they've estimated that a lot of their middle management team is remote, is not going to come back. And that's what we were talking about. I was like,
I just think companies have gotten really bloated in the middle. And I think a lot of that, and I won't blame the middle managers. I actually blame people that are higher up in the organization, and they start to hire one manager to manage a few people. Then, that took a lot off my plate. I'm going to hire another manager to manage. And when we say middle managers, it's people that don't necessarily have any experience managing people. This is kind of their first like managerial role, or maybe their second. And so all of a sudden you have this really bloated group of middle managers just managing 1 or 2, 3 people. And it's all because you didn't feel like just managing those 15 people by yourself or 20 people by yourself.
Well, that's really hard work.
It is really hard work.
15. I've had 15 direct reports.
Yeah.
That's really, really hard work. That's your full-time job, is just communicating with those people. So you're right. It gets to be where I feel like I have too many direct reports, so I'll create another layer in between me, and instead of 15, I'll have 4 direct reports. And while that might seem like a productive thing, what happens, which we know, is it impacts culture, it impacts communication, it impacts progression.
Yeah, I would say it creates bottlenecks.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest thing.
Yes.
You took a team that was as a director or a vice president, you have a lot of people reporting to you, and that is stressful because you're obviously responsible for all those people and you have to communicate a lot. But I think at that level I guess this is what I see. I'm not coming at a place from this like judging what people are doing, because I don't know. But what I see and what's interesting to me is there's a lot of people who get into like the director and VP level because they've just been at the company for a long time, and they're subject matter experts. And then they enjoy being subject matter experts. But then because they've been there for so long, people keep kind of getting handed to them, and they keep getting promoted, and they keep all these things. And really, it's like someone should have asked them, hey, do you want to continue to be an individual contributor, subject matter expert, or do you want your entire job to be managing people? Because there's people who would love for their entire job to just be communicating and inspiring and managing people, which is what I see as like a really great leader. But when you have that much responsibility in the people leader side, you can't really be that subject matter expert anymore, where you lock your door and you hunker down and you get things done yourself. Like, you've got to let go of that. And so I see a lot of people like not able to let go of that. So then they just hire people because they acquire people because they think they have to, but they're still like in the minutia. So they're not leading. Unless
you're prepared to work 18 hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you can do both. I mean, but you're right. That's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
And most people, especially that have families, don't want to work 18 hours a day.
Yeah. Well, and it's like chasing what you think is like the next progression, but really it should be looking at like, what progression obviously everyone wants to progress from a money standpoint, and that drives a lot of it, is like, I just want to make more and more and more money.
Yep.
But does this progression make sense from like a performance perspective at the company? And then I attribute that to like, the executive team making those calls, like seeing like, okay, so we have this bench of talent. Is that person a really good subject matter expert? Are they capable to lead people, or will they always just be that subject matter expert that I could trust and call on and they'll get everything right, but maybe not the right fit for leading an entire fleet of people, you know? But it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah. Unfortunately, most senior leaders aren't. I mean, they're trying to think about that, but unfortunately, a lot of them aren't willing to put in the time to be great people leaders.
Yeah.
And that just, you get to a point where that is the primary function of your job.
Yeah.
You're talking to people on the way to work. You spend all day talking to people. You block out your calendar to make your rounds, to make sure that everyone on your team feels like they're connected to you, not just the people that are in your staff meeting. And then when you're driving home, you're making calls and talking to people. And that's a big change, I think, for a lot of leaders in big companies when they get to that point, when they realize that should be what they're doing and they've never done that, or they don't have the skills to do that, or they don't have the energy to do it.
Yeah.
I personally really enjoyed it because it was about building teams and like putting the right puzzle pieces into the right places and then watching people thrive and be successful. But there's a lot of folks out there that struggle with that daily interaction of like, this is my job to communicate. Which is why, you know, we're able to help our clients that do want that. Like they do want that hyper communication around culture every day. Got to have a plan for it. You got to have resources to do it. But that's the difference between being, I think, really great leaders and good leaders or bad leaders. I mean, speaking of that, speaking of communication, you were talking about earlier this week, Sex and the City, because I was gone and you were watching the show and you said that it has something to do with communication. Well,
it was more of just like an analogy. I started watching Sex and the City from episode 1, season 1. And it's funny because they have really changed the way that they do all the do the videography and kind of set up the scenes and everything, where I don't know if you were ever a big Sex and the City fan. If you remember the first season,
I wasn't.
They do this thing where Carrie, there's like a name for it. I can't. You said it the other day.
She breaks the third wall.
Yeah, breaks the third wall. And so she's like, let's say she's talking to Mr. Big and they're like about to get in a taxi. Before she gets in the taxi with him, she'll like look over directly at the camera.
Like Ferris Bueller.
And give like her, her thought on the situation.
Yeah.
And then gets back into character and gets back into the scene. And it's funny because they do that through the whole first season.
I didn't realize they did that.
Yeah, and I haven't gone to the second season yet, so I don't know when exactly it stops.
So is she not typing on the computer
No, she is. She's doing that too.
And talking too?
She's doing the typing and the talking, but sporadically it'll be this like, break the third wall, and then she just like talks to the camera, and it's so it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then obviously they eventually stopped doing that at some point because it's not part of the later seasons, but it made me think about how a lot of times when we're helping, groups with communication, the first thing that people will say is, well, we tried to do that, but it didn't get enough views, it didn't get enough open, so like we just stopped doing it. But then they don't pivot to any other thing. So it's not like, oh, this one thing didn't work and we pivoted. It's this one thing didn't work, so we stopped.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking about like, imagine if Sex and the City had been like, oh, this one style of connecting with the audience doesn't work, so we just stop. Yeah. No more seasons. No more seasons.
Yeah.
But instead they say, that wasn't a great way to connect with the audience. It felt like it broke up the scene. For me, it felt like it just broke up the flow. And I want to think of her as Carrie Bradshaw in the moment. I don't want to think of her as like this person telling me what I should think in the middle of the scene.
Yeah. I mean, Seinfeld was the same way.
Yeah.
Like, you look at this first season, Seinfeld looks nothing like the last, like in terms of like the structure. Mm-hmm. Because remember, even the first few seasons where they would have the intros where he's doing the stand-up.
Yeah.
That just goes away.
Oh, yeah, it goes away. But I think that's what is so interesting about so many of these sitcoms, and there's a lot of reasons for this, but so many of these 90s, like in 2000s sitcoms, they lasted for so long. And I think it's because if you go back and watch them, they weren't afraid to constantly iterate the style and the way they delivered each episode and each season. It was like constantly changing. And nowadays, when you watch something, it's like there's maybe season to season, it might change a little bit depending if they change a director. But for the most part, it's like nothing changes the entire season. If they do it one way at the first episode, they're doing it the exact same way.
It's because they're streaming now. They're just shooting everything at once.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so there's not this like, I think it's cool when you look back at the old sitcoms because you can tell after every episode they were going back, watching it, thinking to themselves, what did I not like about that? And then they were iterating on it. And I think that's what makes those shows last a lifetime. And when you go back and watch them, they're still relevant. They still make sense. They're still funny. Whereas there are so many shows nowadays, I will never go back and watch 90% of the shows that we watch today.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20 years from now.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah.
So I think it's kind of like getting back to basics when you think of communication, because there's so many distractions now with technology that it's really easy to be like, we just need, and I know we have already talked about this in previous podcasts. It's really easy to say, oh, this email, we were sending out emails this way. We were sending out newsletters monthly or quarterly, and it just wasn't working. So we're going to slap a new technology on top of it, and it's going to fix our problems, or we're going to stop doing it because it didn't work a few times the way we expected it to. And so it's more like, how do we have the Seinfeld, the Sex and the City mindset of like, one thing, iterate, two, iterate, three, iterate, and constantly be evolving and having that growth mindset with our communication style.
Yeah. So they'll say, we tried that, it didn't work. And then we go, yeah, but we weren't here.
Yeah. No, I just think it's something like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Like, you put something out there, you send a video out from the CEO, and okay, it doesn't get enough views the first day. That doesn't mean you should just stop making videos from the CEO or making, or putting out email communications just because you didn't get exactly what you wanted, right when you wanted.
I mean, it's like, we talk about this all the time. It's like anything. You've got to build the audience. You got to build the following, even if you're talking about internally at organization. I think about Kim Butler, like sending out his emails, former chief operating officer that I worked for. And, we knew that this email was coming on a Monday, and it was going to have all this crazy stuff in it. But everyone read it, from operational stuff to his thoughts on barbecue chicken. But
he probably had really good thoughts on barbecue chicken.
He did. But it built an audience, and that's just trying things a few times and then not seeing traction. I think that's the risk involved in relying so much on the metrics of the digitization of our communications now is getting, look, our podcast is a good example. Like, starting off the first few weeks looks a lot different than what they look like now in terms of traction and how long people listen to these. So I think it's just easier to get discouraged because you don't see it getting traction. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard work to do these things, and then you're discouraged on top of it. And then other work gets in the way and it falls off.
I also just feel like I feel like we're overthinking everything so much nowadays. And like, we're all like, I do it, you do it, we all do it because we've all turned into these like these media perfectionists because we feel like everything we put out to the world has to be perfect. I think that Gen Z has taught us that that's not the case, that it can actually be very imperfect and get more attention. I think that's what I love most about Gen Z is it's not they don't live in the perfection world, which in some ways can be a little frustrating. But I like to look at the good things about the Gen Zs, and I find them fascinating. And I think what I like most is that they don't waste time on perfection. They just want to get whatever their message is. They're just trying to get it out as fast and as much as possible. And we're seeing that, social media proves it. That works way better than the perfect message.
Yeah, I just saw, it was a report. I forgot where I saw it, but it was about Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Mm-hmm. They prioritize creativity over perfection.
Exactly.
And
that's how I've, not to like toot my own horn, but I would say like I'm like that, and it's definitely backfired really bad. I would say like I have not been the perfectionist I should be probably when I was younger, because I didn't see the point in perfection. I know that sounds so weird. I've never thought that perfection is anything to be proud of if it holds up the process of creativity. And it's kind of like, that's what I've always thought. And when I was younger, I just thought I was just like, oh, like, why do I think like this? Why does everyone else not think like this? But then the more I read about business leaders, like Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, she says this so many times. She's like, I was not focused on perfection. I was focused on creativity and getting things out the door as quickly as possible. So she was kind of like the OG Gen Z mindset of like, I mean, when you look at her stuff, like when she first started, I mean, it's chaotic. Like her life was so chaotic when she was trying to get Spanx off the ground. And I love that though, because I think she's still really chaotic. If you follow her on Instagram, she's chaos.
Yeah.
But I think that's creativity. And that's what, I don't know. I'm a little bit on the soapbox now, but I do think that prioritizing creativity and authenticity over perfection is better.
We get this podcast out every week and it's definitely not perfect.
No, definitely not. Yeah. But I don't care. It doesn't need to be perfect.
No, I know. I mean, you know, and how many quote unquote social media experts have reached out to us to tell us if we just did video, how different this would be.
Yeah. Well, they don't have real jobs.
Yeah.
You want to get the basic, like you don't want to have like misspell things and do all that, but
yeah, you want to be professional, but
yeah, you want to be professional, but it doesn't have to be perfect.
But no paralysis by analysis.
Exactly.
I had an old boss who used to say that all the time.
Yeah.
He would also knock on my door and just go, "You done yet?" Same idea.
Like he was saying, like you're taking too long.
It wasn't even in reference to anything in particular. He just had a lot. I had a lot to do, and he just thought it was funny to say, "Are you done yet?"
That's funny. Have you solved the world's problems yet?
Yeah. He used to also say, "This is not Burger King. There's no drive-through window here."
That's true.
Thanks for hanging with us. And again, sorry for the skipped week. It really was an unusual set of circumstances. Hospital visits
just
is
back
really
to
what
back.
it was.
It felt like, yeah, because we were supposed to record on Sunday, and it was just like, oh no, this is happening again. But we do have an exciting guest for next week. So
yeah, I guess we should say that. Like, sorry that it's been us for so many weeks now. A combination of factors. One, us just thinking about and looking at, you know, what the guest should look like going into the future. And then also trying to align those, you know, with schedules has been difficult. But really, it's been us. I mean, it's been our schedule has been the difficult part. And so it's really hard for us to reach out to someone, you know, sell them on coming on the podcast.
And then we're the difficult
and then we're
ones.
the difficult
Yeah.
ones to actually nail down a time to do these. So
it's also like what we just talked about. We are constantly listening to every episode, looking at the metrics and iterating.
yeah.
And so we have definitely toyed with like, okay, who is our audience? Like, what do they want? What type of, you know, content do they want? And so we're constantly kind of playing around with what that looks like. And that's...
But we do know that from a traction perspective, how long people listen, the one-on-ones win.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why we don't have
and
a problem
athletes. Like
Yeah.
people like the sports talk, the
Yeah.
athlete talk. Anyways.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, we have actually two guests coming up that are going to be really cool. And I'm excited about it.
All right.
So make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment, send feedback. I want to give a shout out to Scott Patton. He's one of our good friends of the pod. He messages me great feedback whenever he listens to the podcast, and we really appreciate it. Yeah, anytime you send me feedback, I get so excited. So don't think you're ever like bothering me. Don't think like you're ever bothering Chad. Like, we love to get feedback.
Unless you're Joe Greenfield, you can keep it to yourself, Joe. Just kidding.
Yeah, but you can send it to me. You don't have to send it to Chad. I like the feedback, so keep it coming. And thanks for all the support. We really appreciate it. Thanks for the words of encouragement. It keeps us going every week.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right, bye.
Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? When you